Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Odessa Dark Crusade Season 2. On this fine evening, we set the scene 30 to 40 miles outside of Odessa. Within the realm of a thin and rather insubstantial forest. At its edge, as the trees tower over the night sky, filtering the moonlight, we have Torvald and Al-Qadir. Al-Qadir having a certain assignment to fulfill, and seeing as how it related to one of the separate clans of Odessa, has contacted one of them to ask for assistance, that the clan themselves might discover some less than savory information on local usurpers. And that is where we begin this scene. Just outside the forest itself, the two neonates still on their horses. Al-Qadir, you've had a bit of trouble riding yours, needless to say. Animals are not friends of Canaanites.
Their loss.
But you have managed to make it here.
Thor just sort of says, I suggest we take the rest of the way on foot.
And Qadir will nod, be more comfortable on his feet than that of a horse that he cannot truly tame.
Leave the horses here. Tie them up.
And he will look to his ghoul, Asada, and tell him at the moment to be a few paces ahead of us, to give signals to any type of possible where it's interferences we may come to.
There is nothing immediate in front of you that would construe an interference. In fact, it is quite quiet out this evening.
We'll reconnaissance this place, see what we can find out.
And Qadir will nod.
I don't suggest going in all guns blazing wouldn't be a phrase now. Oh. I don't suggest going in full-heartedly.
Qadir will nod. I agree with that. So at this point, we are going to be more on recon, though if the opportunity presents itself, I would prefer to take it. And
I'll follow you. You know more than I do.
He nods to that. And he will begin going through the forest, following in the similar direction of his ghoul, with his heightened senses of his visual sight as he begins to stealth through the forest.
Yes, there's still a healthy amount of light, so you're able to pick up on. You're able to make good use of your heightened senses.
Thorvald hangs back, like he's gonna let Al-Qadir be ahead, because if there's any sort of magic stuff, Al-Qadir would probably be able to tell, and Thorvald wouldn't. So.
Mentally, Qadir will say, make sure to have the mirror out, just in case, because you're not as blind as you think you are.
Yeah, the mirror's around his neck on a little sort of chain thing.
So roll stealth or roll perception?
Roll me perception, perception alertness as you begin to creep into the forest. The first few 100 yards aren't going to be anything particularly disturbing. As you're still on the edge of the forest, you see a few wild animals. 1 second.
I believe
see,
2, possible 4.
Oh, pardon?
I have 2 possible 4 successes.
I'm just double checking my sheet a second. Been a while since I've played properly, so I can't remember all my stats now. 3. I thought it was 6. I was pretty sure it was 6.
As you you make your way into the forest, Al-Qadir, there's nothing that immediately stands out to you. A small rustling beneath the leaves of a forest bed. Some birds fly out of their nests and the trees as you approach your presence, either waking them or scaring them. There is the brief blurred figure of a fox or wolf-like creature quickly dances in and out of the tree line. But other than that, there's nothing that immediately catches your eye.
Okay.
Is Torvald using Protein 1?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's dark, it's difficulties 8.
Okay.
So you get 2 successes. Yeah, you see much the same, Torvald. You don't see anything immediately out of the ordinary. You do notice that your mirror is not quite as effective here as it would be normally because of the lack of light.
Yeah.
So it's not really reflecting all that much. You kind of have to angle it a little bit for it to kind of catch the moonlight effectively. There is kind of a healthy amount of moonlight, but it's all natural light. And over the next half hour or so, clouds will begin to part over the moonlight and begin to thicken. But yes, you don't immediately notice too much. Although the animals don't respond as violently towards you. Not immediately. You notice one of the birds staring at you before you fly off. And then kind of tweeting and flying into to the traditional, oh, that's a vampire, I'm scared sort of panic.
How far in is this facility? What says mentally.
So,
I'm not going to speak out loud. So
yeah, quick out of character note. Al-Qadir, the warriors haven't told you the exact location of whom you're looking for, or what. Only that it's somewhere within the inner vicinity of this forest. They didn't stay too long, mainly because it's too far out for them to reasonably explore without risking daylight, and they don't know the lay of the land that well. They also kind of lost the trail around here, so they're kind of leaving it up to you to finish the job, considering it's not really their assignment to fulfill.
Kadira will mentally say, said if we have no type of problems through our particular trek through this forest, as I would give it about maybe a kilometer or so.
That's a fairly reasonable guess.
Okay. He's going to follow on for now.
Yes. Would anyone like to roll me? Perception survival and perception animal ken.
I have that. That's one of my things that I'm good at.
Do label them when you roll. So
okay,
I can know which
I'll
one
roll
is
both. Hang on. Double checking what my animal ken is. I know my survival's 3.
And would my heightened senses be in effect with this?
Yes, it would.
That's 1, 2, 3. And perception animal kin, I don't have animal kin, so does my difficulty go up or just roll perception?
Okay, same dice pool. So the first one was perception survival. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so did you say you were using Protein 1 again?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. Yeah, it's still delayed then, unfortunately. But you get a success, so you do see things. All right. So we'll start with Torvald. Torvald, as you begin to head deeper into the forest, you notice that some of the trees are beginning to look a bit bare. Kind of like the bark has been chipped away at. Maybe by a caracal or something. It's actually a lot of them. The main issue is that, or what appears to be fairly distinctive, is that it's a fair few amount of trees. There appears to be some sort of I wouldn't say pattern, but every few yards you'll see a tree that has been that has had much of its bark, at least on the lower part of the trunk, kind of partially ripped off. And what appears to be a fairly savage markings.
That's very unusual.
It is a bit unusual. Like, there are certain animals that do cause, quote, damage to trees like this, but for example, bears can literally use trees as scratching posts, and usually don't do that much damage to the bark unless they're clawing at it for some reason. And also, with your animal ken roll, you know that there would be few, if any, animals in this forest that would do this, at least not with the frequency that you're seeing.
Yeah.
It could be a natural anomaly. There could just be a large amount of animals, or it could be an animal trying to break into the tree to get to the sap, but that's a bit it's a bit of a stretch.
It looks like something pretty large, did it? I imagine.
Yeah. The claws would seem to resemble at least that of a large cat's. And large cats do exist within the region, large-ish. Just going to double check real quick. Yeah, you do get big cats. You do get leopards in the region. They're not, and as of this time period, they're not even particularly uncommon.
Okay.
So yeah, it wouldn't. But of course, a leopard wouldn't really have a reason to do that other than maybe clip its own nails. As for Al-Qadir, you see. Let's see. You get 3 successes on your survival check. Yeah, you notice this as well. You notice that you notice these markings on the trees where the bark's been partially ripped out. It's a fairly deep claw marking, very deep, in fact. You recognize it as not belonging to any large animal that could do this, or at least not in this forest. It would have to be probably something like a bear that could really, and if it was dedicated to just ripping open this bark. It could be territorial marking. It could be a message of effectively telling something to stay out of its territory. But this is not how a lot of animals really do this. A lot of them mark it with scent rather than just clawing open a tree. This is not how any of the animals that could do this in this forest would act. This appears to resemble some intelligence, almost as if it's meant to intimidate people rather than animals. As for your animal ken roll,
it is a super botch.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really gather anything from the wildlife here. Everything is just terrified of you, which is pretty normal, to be honest, so no real surprise there. The only thing that really grabs your attention is the claw markings on these tree branches that seem to grow more severe every few yards you go in. Which gives you a sense of direction, but you're not sure what you're exactly heading towards.
Qadir, though not knowing much about animals, but feeling that these claw marks are unusually big, like that of a bear, or maybe something bigger. And with the assumption that I am dealing with Tremere, could it be a possibility that maybe this could have been done by a ghoul creature to be a intimidating?
In fact, because you got 3 or more successes, you also notice something very, very strange. As you go deeper, you notice that the pierced trees are no longer bearing claw marks. They're also bearing numerous punctures, as if they had been punctured by a bull's horns. Like, this is not a woodpecker. This is as if something had charged into the tree.
That gives me pause, and knowing that the Gangrel have been doing experiments involving body modification and some type of new creature, Qadir will mentally send a message that we might be dealing with the word chimera is a thing at this time.
Mentally sending a message.
Yeah.
Sorry, who you mentally connected with again?
Torvald.
What ritual is
doesn't
that again?
really-
Remind me.
Commune with K-Knight.
Ah, yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, my bad.
He doesn't really know what that means. But he's just he still hangs back, like he's happy. He's just being really sort of watchful at the moment.
And because the legend of the chimera would have happened by now, and with an occult of 3, that concept wouldn't be beyond my grasp, right?
Yeah, no. Chimera. Yeah, or chimera. Yeah, it's. You're not really sure if it's possible. You certainly don't understand what it would entail. Really, it's a term to define, to try and label something Al-Qadir doesn't really understand. I mean, this is to try and give it some understanding that is lacking. Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, it makes sense. It's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility.
I've just never seen one, but my mind goes, since we're dealing with chimera and dealing with things, experimenting with the body, and seeing something that definitely would not be here on the outside. My mind is thinking that there is some type of monstrosity that is a combination of beasts, possibly, if not just different beasts that have been brought out here. And he's thinking of the worst case scenario that it is some type of chimera thing just made of different animals that is unfortunately watching this forest, which definitely makes him uneasy, but he hopes that doesn't come to that. Do I see any signals from my ghoul that I sent out ahead of our path?
Not yet.
Okay.
You see his. Actually, make me a wit survival to spot his trail.
All right. Need to check because I'm pretty sure my wits is 4. It's my my wits is 3. It's my perception intelligence there at 4. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Yeah, you see his trail. It's pretty simple. Particularly for heightened senses, it's not too hard. As you begin to follow it, though, and he's going in the same direction that you are, he seems to have caught on to the same things that you've caught onto.
Okay.
As you about 200 to 300 meters further, 200 300 yards further. So now you're about over half of a mile into the forest. You notice that his footsteps stop, and there are grooves, marks in the ground that indicates that he began crawling or was being dragged across the forest floor.
That brings a shock to Qadir.
Make me a quick wits investigation roll, both of you. If you do not have investigation, you may not make the roll, as that is how that much is like.
I probably can't remember if I have it or not.
Well, Al-Qadir, you do not, so you may not actually make this check.
No, that's why I just deleted the post. So, yeah.
Yep, if
I don't have it either.
okay. Yeah, then all you see is yeah, the only other thing you notice is a tint of blood, but there is no blood sprayed over the forest bed. Like you can't see it. You can smell it though. You're Canaanites. You can smell blood. You know when there's blood about. It's your main food source. You can smell that. You can smell blood from quite a distance, even without heightened senses. And you can smell that blood was spilt here, but maybe just a small quantity. It certainly wasn't anything big. Might have been a scrap. Could have gotten caught on something. Could have tripped. Could have gotten bitten by a wild animal. You're not really sure, but it wasn't a major wound. If any were even suffered. Could even have been animal blood. Could have fought something off. As stated, they could actually be crawling along the forest bed. They could have They could have seen something and started sneaking around. But there's nothing here that would indicate you guys need to sneak around here right now. You don't see anything immediate.
Yeah, and at this point, Qadir is more or less just gonna send a mental thing of just being careful, seeing that even blood was even drawn in the area that we're in. And we'll continue moving.
As you begin to move further along again, you realize at this point you're kind of heading uphill a little bit. Like you're kind of going up at an angle that begins to get steeper. I
am going to still keep my eyes out for my Golasada to make sure that he is okay, since I have not heard from him for a time.
Yeah. Again, as you go further, you realize there's still this kind of these grooves, this crawling or this dragging. Again, it's not immediately clear. As you go up, there are some rocky outcroppings. Again, some scared animals, but nothing immediate. All you're beginning to, or at least Al-Qadir, you are noticing. You're both noticing this, but Al-Qadir, because he got more successes in the prior check, that again, these claw and puncture wounds are getting worse and worse. The scent of blood is getting thicker as well. Torvald, you notice a dead leopard slumped over a tree branch. Seems like it's kind of been decaying there for a while. It's being it looks like it's been half picked clean.
I mean, that's gross.
It is. It smells pretty disgusting as well.
There's no way to tell at this stage what killed it, so.
No, it looks like it's been rotting there for a while, and again, it's been picked at by scavengers. But would everybody like to roll me one quick wit survival or wits alertness check, whatever is your highest?
Both the same.
Yep. So
Actually,
Is
I
it
don't know
check?
my wits is for. Hang on. Six. If it's difficulty 6, it's a lot of successes.
It depends on whether you're using Protean 1. Because in darkness, darkness makes perception rolls go
I
up.
think I will.
This time?
Yeah.
Okay. And of course...
because it seems more dangerous now, so probably he would have activated it.
Yeah, something at this point's clearly awry. Okay. Successes. It was... Okay, Al-Qadir. Al-Qadir, as you approach, you've kind of noticed every now and again a rustling beneath the leaves. It's kind of passed and gone every few minutes. But as you've gone deeper into the forest, you've realised it's slowly become more frequent and a bit louder. It wasn't really noticeable at first because when you initially noticed the rustling, it couldn't have been anything larger than a mouse, and it still isn't.
Probably
a dormouse, but
I will mentally ask my familiar Leaf, how does he feel about this noise if he has noticed this noise as well?
1 second. Okay. Okay. Is that a mouse or a rat? I can't remember.
It's a rat.
A rat. Okay. He kind of runs up. He runs up the sleeve of your shirt and sits on your shoulder. He kind of focuses on where it's been rustling, as he says to you telepathically, "I don't know. Haven't been around these parts much. Could have a look if you want."
We've already missed one of our colleagues. I'd rather not send you out there. At least not yet.
Come on, Master. I'm the king of them, and no dormouse is going to put me in, I'll tell you that much.
The problem is, if I heard from MA, familiars are not ghouls. They don't have any disciplines, because I would send him out if he had like his potence or his celerity. But
oh, no. Familiars have no disciplines.
Exactly. He's literally just a regular rat with a human's intelligence and a few mystical aspects. So, and I can't feed him blood to do so, even if I wanted to. So if Asada was around, he'd be less apprehensive because he wouldn't feel like he's missing somebody. But he is more apprehensive because now he feels like he's missing somebody.
Oh, come on, give me a shot. I'll take him out for 1-2.
And he shakes his head.
Torvald, you see the rat make this kind of 1-2 punch with its teeny tiny claws.
I mean, normally he'd be amused by this, but right now he's like a little on edge.
Yeah. He'll say
he thinks it's strange, like considering he's not really seen.
Yeah, its mannerisms seem to be human.
Yeah, that's weird, and Al-Qadir's not a gangrel, so he's like, what the fuck? But you know.
No, so at this point, he'll tell him, just keep your eyes out, and be careful. Like, don't be. And he will say, don't be any further that I can't see you.
I won't leave your sight, Master. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, with that, I will let him walk around, but like I said, I want to be able to see him.
Okay. He'll leap with your shoulder into the kind of better leaves and bark and soil that kind of make up the floor of this forest. As he, you can't really see him that well, but you can hear him just fine. You don't really see him more than you see the rustling of the ground. As he now begins searching for this noise. And it goes quiet, but he keeps in telepathic contact with you. So you have a general idea of where he is. He's just chattering away in your mind, kind of letting you know what's going on. It's actually a little bit annoying because he's like, got him! No, that was a tree branch.
And with that, well, we'll keep moving.
Yeah, and as you start moving forward again, he'll move to keep up with you. Torvald. Oh boy. While Al-Qadir is having this conversation with this rat that he brought along with him, that seems to be acting in a strangely intelligent fashion. You notice your eyes are not as focused on the rustling on the ground. You do notice it, and actually, you're pretty sure it's the same creature. You're pretty damn certain that this, what you can only assume to be a dormouse. Again, you haven't really been able to see it. It's been kind of beneath the bark and the leaves. Has been following you. And as you begin to move up these rocky outcroppings within the forest, you begin to notice more eyes in the forest that appear to be looking at you. You notice a lot of the birds that fled before are not fleeing from you now. And in fact, you're not entirely certain, but you think some of them might be the same animals from before. You noticed there is that fox you or Al-Qadir saw before. It's just sitting in a brush.
Yeah, I thought I was going to say to Al-Qadir, we're being followed, being watched.
To you, this is as clear as daylight or moonlight. It feels quite crowded. They're masked well by the leaves on the trees and the natural foliage, but you see almost every eye in the forest that you can see is looking at you two. And when you go to move, they will go to follow.
With that information relayed to Qadir, he will state back, though still moving, should we... I don't want to leave without my ghoul, but I don't necessarily want to be followed like this.
There's no way that our arriving there will be a surprise because we're definitely being watched.
Qadir is conflicted at this point because he's still missing somebody and he wants to go further, but as he has been pointed out, we are very much being watched. And I will speak to Alif to come back to my pouch.
But I almost got him.
Like we are being followed.
Oh, so I was right. He seems very smug.
I will deal with his impishness later.
He's a rat. Expect nothing less. He will make his way back up to you. So goddamn close. It was an inch away from me, an actual inch. He was probably about half a meter, but you both know I was right.
It's like, so we can deal with that later. That's like, we are still missing a person and we are being followed.
So which direction do you go in at this point? Do you decide to turn around or do you decide to go deeper in?
Well, that depends. When you're being obviously followed, when you leave, they tend to follow you back. But when you keep going deeper, they tend to just keep following you. So the biggest problem at this point is, one, I need to find a body, and two, I need to either disrupt this place in the sense as in maybe they can stop following me, or two, to quickly leave and have our tracks recovered. But the biggest problem after that point is the people around here may start leaving because they may understand the intent with these animals that they were obviously looking for something. So that's also a problem too. So I would say at this point now the main goal Al-Qadir will present to Torvald is to find his missing ghoul, then at this point retreat since we have obviously been discovered.
Okay, is there any... You said that we can smell blood more strongly.
Yeah, the tracks are leading in the same general direction where the blood is.
I mean, it could be a trap. They've cut the ghoul sort of superficially, dragged him off into a place so that we follow the blood and then get jumped on.
The ghoul was a gift.
Is there any way you can communicate with him?
No, I cannot. He's still bound to the mortal coil. My spell won't allow me to speak with him. So, at this point, Qadir would like to follow where the obvious blood smell is coming from. I should be able to hopefully find the focus of it.
I'm gonna stay where I am for now.
Yeah, I was actually going to tell Torvald not to be safe, and if he needs to return, if he feels not comfortable, to return back to the city.
He's not going to leave. He's not going to leave entirely, but he's going to again sort of hang back a bit.
So,
he doesn't think that you're going to find the ghoul.
Okay. Then Al-Qadir will venture forward a few meters up. Well, continuing just kind of going up this hill of rocky outcroppings. You kind of just go around the rocky outcroppings because there's not too much effort to do so. Doesn't really add any time. Torvald, when you're left alone, some of the birds begin to land near you. One of them actually lands on your shoulder.
Can I speak with it?
Yes, it's an animal. You can use feral whispers.
Why are you following me, bird?
Because I was told to.
By who?
I'm not allowed to tell you that. Although I know it is said that it is unwise to be in someone else's territory without them knowing. Without asking. It's a very small bird. It's kind of like a finch. He comes across as very timid.
I don't think we'll be staying long. I'm gonna mentally communicate with Al-Qadir. Say, have you found him yet?
I agree. Well, I hope you're wrong.
Qadir will respond, no, I haven't found them yet.
I think we better go.
I would be sad. I just like to have. I just eat seeds and berries.
And Torvald will say, "That's like I said. Yeah, we'll say, I said leave then. I said I won't stop you."
Al-Qadir, as you're heading up, about a couple, kind of make your way around a couple of these rocky outcroppings. The third is where the trail seems to lead into is what appears to be a small cave. The outer edge of the entrance is smeared in dry blood and is marked with these claw markings and punctures.
Oh, why can't these things just be out in open land? I'm tired. I am really getting tired of being stuck in the enclosed spaces.
You also notice that at this point the fox is rather brazenly following you. It's not really making any attempt to hide itself at all.
And the cave is dark, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can still see into it to an extent, as heightened senses does pick up some natural light from outside, but it is very, very dark in there, even with heightened senses. Because it doesn't allow you to just ignore darkness, it still needs some degree of natural light to pick up on. It's not like Protean 1 where you just see in the dark period, or Serpentis 2 where you just use a different sense so that you can ignore your blindness. You can see into it there, but it's very faint. You don't see your ghoul though.
Can I
The cave looks like it's a fairly natural formation, but you can't, and you can see the cave to its end. Again, it's quite small, but you don't see your ghoul in there.
So I don't see. Do I see anything in there? Because I was going
other than rock and dirt. The fox will circle you, and then we'll head into the cave, and then we'll just sit in front of the entrance.
I look at the fox with a bit of evident disdain, and I would see the leaf in there, but the fox is obviously looking at me. And foxes eat rats all the time. So
It does eye up your shoulder, wherever that is, before kind of just sitting down and then kind of seemingly taking a rest. Like it takes its eyes off you.
well, at this point, since I do not have tools to deal with the situation efficiently, I am going to retreat for now.
Okay. As you turn around, you hear a cat-like growl. Not really a roar. It is a roar, but it's not like a howl. It's not like a lion's roar. It's not quite as bellowing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As you see what appears to be a leopard snarling at you. Directly in front of you as you turn around. The fox sits up, its ears perk up. Torvald, the finch, and quite a lot of the birds, but not all of them. Pretty much all the smaller birds fly away as you hear the fly into a panic and just quite literally fly into a panic. As how it speaks to you becomes little more than the gerbil tweets that it would make to most humans. As someone who's experienced an animalism, you understand that this is kind of like how animals react when they're screaming.
Okay.
Or panicking. They kind of lose all semblance of coherence. But yes. Some of the animals do remain, again, like a few of there's a couple owls there and a few other nocturnal birds. Again, the larger ones that remain. They stay there, they still looking at you. There's that brief moment where they kind of look up to where Al-Qadir is and then look back at you. But Al-Qadir,
when I see this beast, my face goes in a not necessarily a smile, but my eyes narrows and squares with this beast, and I will evidently call out into it because I am irritated at this point.
It's quite bulky for its size. Its claws are longer and thicker than the average leopards. Again, it's quite a lot. It's much larger than you would expect an animal of its size to be. And as a result, its claws are longer and sharper as well, as are its teeth. You can smell part of. You can also smell blood on its fangs, as its eyes glow a rather deep red, as it says, "What are you doing in my forest?"
And Qadir's irritation is marked now with confusion, and will simply state, "I'm here looking for somebody. What did you do with my friend?"
He's with me now.
Well, we need to leave since you don't want us to be here.
No,
Give him back.
you are intruders. Like the one you sent here before you.
Or a site real quick before I say a possible insulting thing to it.
Yep, roll it.
One, two, three.
1 second. A pale aura composed of red and purple highlights.
So there's blood in it, but it's giving off a signal that it actually could be undead. Which, out of character-wise, there's only one creature or one vampire clan that I know deals with cats, and they shouldn't be here. If that is the case, or it could be a gangrel. The other clan, that'd be really odd if they're here. And it's the red meat, obviously anger. It was pale red, and what else?
It's pale red and purple, which means that it is angry and aggressive.
Well, it has my ghoul, and I dislike being challenged like this. I will say to this beast, though, in a stern tone, I am willing to trade for him. If not, I am taking him.
You insult me. Why shouldn't I just kill you?
And his mind goes, in his mind, he wants to say a quick retort, but he doesn't. I was not aware this belonged to anybody.
Well, now you do.
Then that I do, but I still need my friend.
Why do I care what happens to your lost pack mate?
Why do you care to keep it?
It sustains me.
I have seen many animals in this forest. I'm sure you can survive off of them fine.
I'm gonna be making my way towards the direction I think Al-Qadir went.
Yeah, birds will just follow you.
Okay, it's fine.
And
You do not tell me what to do in my forest.
You don't even present yourself to what you are.
That is an ironic statement.
I have not lost my manners. I am Al-Qadir of Clan Asamite. I want my friend back.
What is a judge doing here?
Now that he'll raise an eyebrow.
I've done nothing to earn your kind's ire.
And says, because he said church specifically, right?
Pardon?
Did he say church?
No, he said. No, he said. Well, it said a judge.
Oh, sorry.
It's asked what a judge is doing here. It's your clan's nickname.
No, I thought he said church, not judge. Sorry. He will state, I'm investigating a potential breach, potential slight against the gangrel.
Oh, congratulations. You found it.
And he'll respond. I have proof that the gangrel have been captured and experimented by the usurpers, and I was told they were within this forest.
I have no interest in going back to the city.
You don't have to go back. I'm here for the destruction of the usurpers and the freedom of your people, nothing more.
I made my freedom while the rest of the world watched.
And he will nod with that. But then
I have.
Then I have to ask, have you seen the usurpers in this forest? Are you going to allow them to destroy your brethren like this?
I did my piece for my brethren, but they did not repay the favour.
And that he is kind of confused at, like, has he dealt with the usurpers, or he's talking about his own personal things? Then, at that point, it's like, I was not aware this was your forest. No, I am here to intrude on your business. I am here for the usurpers, nothing more. And you have my friend, and I need him back.
You will find no usurpers here. Why would I be here if there were usurpers here?
I had information that they were nearby.
They do not come to wild places such as these. It is why I can make safe haven.
Then if that is the case, I need to reevaluate the information I've been given, and forgive me for what I've done to you.
Should I?
So that depends on your sense of mercy and irritation with the situation.
So I'm guessing I'm coming up on Al-Qadir talking to a leopard.
Yeah. It kind of circles back around to you, Torvald, what turns around. Sniffs at you. You smell more familiar than the judge.
I am Torvald. He looks at Al-Qadir questioningly, not sure whether this is a familiar or... Because he hasn't got auspex, so...
You will state to him, it is a member. He is a member, or was a member of Can Gangrel. Oh, I said, a cousin of yours.
Torvald bows his head respectfully. It seems that we've stumbled upon your hunting grounds.
Yes.
Then we should leave.
Hmm.
Al-Qadir, come on.
I need my friend back first.
I don't know. If I simply allow you to take him, what's to stop you from telling others of this place? I saw more of your kind here a few days prior. So nice.
Members of Clan Gangrel have gone missing.
I know. I was one of them.
And with that, Kadir will focus on the leopard. I have only recently figured out something's been happening to the gangrel. I am trying to make sure this doesn't happen to them again. If not, bring punishment to those who have done that to them.
You don't seem like you're here against your will, though.
No, I escaped weeks ago. When they abandoned their secret little hovel.
We're too late. Torvald looks angrily at Al-Qadir. Not like he's angry at him, but more like frustrated, I suppose.
The rest were dead.
Damn it.
Yeah. Kadir's hand will clench, and will bow respectfully, or nod, bow his head respectfully. If you would allow us to, I could ask in secret, because my people have no reason to further involve themselves in the forest, but we could scry from where they may have been and find them and bring retribution to them.
Where are you from?
I am from Edessa.
Then what point is there in scrying? You should already know what the truth is.
I need proper proof before I can do anything to deal with them. They unfortunately have too much favor within the city.
In any case, if they were killed out here, then it's outside the prince's jurisdiction.
No one was killed out here. I made this place my home because no one was here.
And with that, now he's even
And
more.
now I see two trespassers and one of their servants. So casually sacrificed to my needs.
Okay, and now with that, Qadir's eyes will go a little bit wide, and he will say, "I would never sacrifice my people without them knowing that."
You sent that ghoul alone into an uncharted location that you thought what was there? Usurpers? Canaanites like me? And you think they'd make it out alive? You're very lucky it is still alive. I plan to waste not.
And
A more amateurish hunter may have simply devoured him on the spot.
Thord looks at Al-Qadir like,
I do not understand why you are here.
I'm here because Al-Qadir told me that the Tremere were dragging Gangrel into this forest against their will and experimenting on them.
They were dragging them into their hovel in Odessa to change them. And others. I do not remember well. I have begun to care even less. I betrayed my creed for politics and clan, and I wound up with a just end. I will not make this mistake again.
So, out of character-wise, though, so it seems like the Tremere were coming here and gathering Gangrel, not the other way around.
Yes, they were kidnapping Gangrel from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then taking them to Odessa.
Okay. So then I would say at this point internally, the information that the dwarves gave him was old or misunderstood.
You seem puzzled. Does it not surprise you?
So, I expected this simple mission to be simple, and I've been rightfully surprised. And
Nothing is ever simple when dealing with Canaanites and mortals. Why do you think I came here to be alone?
as I honor your decision, in my position, I must deal with the Canaanites and the mortals.
No, you are always free to choose. You choose to stay.
You're going to say something, right, Torvald?
Thor is looking really sort of pensive. He's quite annoyed, actually. So you probably get like snippets of annoyed thoughts.
I can only imagine from what you've said that you're here to get some sort of witness statement from me. Put me on a pulpit made out of carved wood and have me speak from the hilltops for your clan and condemn the usurpers. I'm sure that as Misi would like that, they'd likely glue me to it.
Whether you show up on a pulpit or not, I wanted proof that it did happen. Whether I would find their rooms stained with blood of Canaanites or I get a valued testimony, it does not matter. What matters is that they do get the judgment that they deserve.
Thorvald seems to sort of disagree.
That may be difficult considering most of them are dead. And none of them, to my knowledge, were from Odessa at all.
I'm not going to sit here and start a clan war against the Tremere. I think that would be profoundly stupid.
I wound up even more of a monster because of it. Because of our crusade. The one time our clan deceived itself into thinking there was something greater than the self. Than you.
So there's one difference for trying a war and proving what wickedness that they try to hide from them. But I know no Ventry would just sit there and let the Tremere take their people. They would be crying throughout the streets about the injustice of it.
Yes, the Ventry would cry, wouldn't they? It smiles.
So if we were just trying to start a war, we would be much more obvious about it. At least if something could be done to keep their power into check, and more or less keep bigger eyes on them, so they're not just stealing people off the streets or whatever they want to do.
Well, they can't. They're obviously taking Gangle from elsewhere because it would be noticed if Gangle and Dessa started to go missing.
They were putting us into boxes. Many miles from this place. I was a resident of a small community of others. I don't think I was the first of my kind to be ambushed on the way to the capital. I don't think I'll be the last.
So how are they managing to subdue? Gangle is stronger than most.
I remember a masked man riding with many mounted followers, armed with swords. hammers, blunt and pointy things that wouldn't really matter to most of us. Until he drew fire from his hands and rendered me into the long sleep. I do not know how I survived. I should have been ashed. Fire destroys us. It does not torpor our kind. That is not how it works. Seems a little bit confused, and that causes it to be slightly frenzied, panicked.
Yeah, he's having a flashback. And hearing that, mentally, they have somebody don't deal with fire in such nature. Would there be any connection I could think of a fire that does not kill a canine?
Not really. That doesn't really make sense. Like fire, in theory, fire can torpor a canine and not kill them if it is explicitly applied in a very precise fashion. But it's very hard to do and extremely risky. Like, you can't really do that with any degree of reliability. Like anyone trying to measure the amount of fire required to kill a canine would also need to know that canine's capabilities in order to render the correct amount of damage to not immediately destroy them, which again is effectively impossible. I remember being put in a box. I remember words. I remember the one that called itself Regent. I remember the one it dealt with, that masked man. The one with that rod that it calls a mace.
Qadir will nod to that.
I remember I was kept in a place called Riverside.
This is starting to make sense.
I remember flowing water. It lasted for a long time. When I was reopened, I was in that place the usurpers call a church.
A chantry. And mentally, he'll say to Torvald that he and another aspect were researching Riverside and came to a conclusion of people going missing, and also of a slave trade. Also, that
right.
there was a potential Ravnos heading that slave trade.
Thorwald agrees. He says he knows that people are going missing and ghouls in Riverside, which is why he's been keeping his ghoul like pretty much where she is.
In any case, I am done fighting this pointless war. It was supposed to be a fight to ensure our survival, not threaten it.
Qadir will nod.
We should never have tested ourselves against the cruelty of man.
I would not put you back into the fires of war. That is not for you to deal with. And he'll go to Torvald.
It never was. It was not my place. I will not make that mistake again.
Yeah. And yeah, Qadir will go to Torvald and say, and it's not yours either.
I think we need to return to Odessa.
That we do. But he will again still look over to the Gangrel, but he will say more softly, I still need my ghoul back.
What can you assure for his return?
What do you want?
I want secrecy, I want safety. As long as the ghoul is in my hands, you can't act against me without him risking death. She begins to head back towards the cave. Again, its eyes deep red.
He
As
will
it head back towards the cave, it begins to shift. And yes, she does possess those horns.
That is definitely surprising to Qadir, because he's never
Might-
seen features like
Her
that.
skin is more grave and pale.
Might I know your name, cousin?
Qadir will just
No, I do not wish to be known.
Very well. I am Thorvald, childer of Gaia Radia Crassus. If I vow something, I do not break my word.
Hmm. I
Qadir
have
will
heard
look
that much. I have seen it followed through on very little, however.
How about Thor looks to Al-Qadir, sort of saying, "Hear me out."
We will simply state you shouldn't sacrifice anything. This was me to do. If anything should sacrifice, it should be me.
Then trade yourself for your ghoul. If you are so noble.
And he would look over to the gangrel. And my sacrifice to you would include what?
You're not seriously considering staying here in place of a ghoul.
That ghoul has a lot more
It
sentiment.
can relay your information. I would not destroy you. Well, I do not trust vows and oaths. Thorvald does speak truth in that a gangrel's word is law. It is necessary to live. To betray one's word makes one a target. There is no point in that, to needlessly endanger oneself for the short term.
And Qadir nods to that. And he will state to the gangrel, if I were to promise my service for a select amount of time for the freedom of my ghoul, would you agree to that?
You don't seem to understand. I do not want service. I want a hostage to assure that my living space is not known to a neighboring capital full of those that would hunt me or my kind.
I very much doubt anyone in Edessa has any interest in coming all the way here to kill you.
Really, I think the usurpers would, as you've just said. I've lived based on the premise that they do not know I am here. When they do, what do you think will happen? I tried to fight them and hide from them before. It didn't work.
And what motive would I have to go and tell the Tremere that you are here? When they would easily hunt and kill me as well.
It is not about intent. Once that knowledge comes to another, once it leaves this place and finds itself within another's domain, it will expand, it will branch off to others, it will find its way to others, because that is how Canaanites work. They can't shut up for even 3 seconds. They won't. They need to know they are not alone. They're too scared to be alone.
I'm not going to leave you out here by yourself, Al-Qadir. It's not worth it for the life of a ghoul. I'm sorry. I know he's your ghoul.
You want your goal, but what do you actually want from this, Al-Qadir? You don't want me to stand witness for you, which I am glad of, because if you did and you insisted, I would have probably had to kill you.
At this point, with the information that I have no reason to divulge this place any further than it's already been. I would insist that this place is that it has no real value, but what the information I gathered of what the Tremere have been doing is to further my investigation against them. So the ghoul has value to me that it was a gift from a dear member of my family, and I wish to respect what he gave to me.
What did they give you?
They gave me a life for me to take care of. Basada is a warrior, and he is willing to sacrifice his life for me. But for him to be captured due to my ignorance, and my ignorance is unfortunate. And if I can rectify it, I will.
I can respect the admission of an error, but I do need a means to secure myself.
I have an understanding of magics myself, and I can put protective barriers and defenses upon your living space. But that would also require me to return here often, which you would rather not me do.
That does raise a question. If I could not be tracked back here, then it would be possible for me to at least aid you in some fashion. Just pause it that, like, they say it with a degree of disgust, like, oh, why am I doing this?
Qadir will say, I can promise a sense of avoidance in this place.
A sense of avoidance. I need to know people will avoid this place, that they won't come here.
Because in his mind, he's thinking, what are ways to keep people out? And he only has a few options. And his mind is, I can make the weather worse around here so nobody wants to be here, but that still doesn't completely guarantee nobody will show up.
Al-Qadir, I spent decades fighting for my clan. I am done fighting.
Not yet.
But they have made me too tired to run. I am not willing to play cat and mouse with the usurpers as much as I am unwilling to fight them. And while I would wish to see them suffer, it doesn't outweigh my need to survive. It doesn't outweigh the fact that I have been irrevocably transformed likely unable to ever step foot in a city again. To see our kind, let alone mortals, that I've been reduced to feeding from animals in the middle of a forest. If you can't provide the means to safeguard me against your enemies, then find someone who will and who can.
He will nod.
You speak with similar terms to the usurpers.
Oh, with that, Qadir will clench his hand.
Wards and magics and sorceries, the same jargon curses that made me what I am now. I am not educated in these tricks, but I do know they can be used to speak with others over very long distances. I saw it once.
And Qadir will nod.
It is like the sight, but more restricted, more funneled, dumbed down.
That is true. Me and Torvald are using it as we speak.
Kind of, her eyes drift between you two.
I can cast that spell amongst ourselves, but I don't believe you wish direct communication with me unless I am misunderstanding this.
No, you understand quite well in this regard.
But what I can do, if given me time, because I am have a mastery of magics, I can create spells to make sure people do not come here.
Good. And when these magics are cast upon my land and keep me safe from those that would hunt me down, I will release your ghoul.
Then we have an agreement?
Yes.
And
make sure to keep it, or you'll find that I will return to the city.
And you remember that a gangrel's word is important to his or her survival.
How do you think I've lived here for so long? How do you think I have survived for so long? Do not speak to me on that which I already know. That on which I stated minutes ago.
If anything happens to the ghoul.
The ghoul will survive. I know how to help it survive here. It will be fine. It will be looked after. Quite well, in fact.
We have our agreement. And we will leave. He starts to sort of make his way back, looking at Al-Qadir to follow.
Yeah,
because it's getting tense enough, and he doesn't really want to fight this game unless he has to.
Yeah, Qadir will nod and mentally say and mentally say yes to follow him. But before he leaves, he will look over to the gangrel and say,
again.
Yeah. He will say, in 2 hours, there will be a heavy rainstorm.
I do like the rain. It comes so rarely.
And he'll just simply nod to that and begin leaving.
Is our travel back to the hall eventful?
If this game girl is controlling the forest, unless she wants to start annoying us with birds crapping on us and creatures nipping at our heels to say, remember this is my forest, I would hope not.
Yeah,
I gotta go, so pretty much.
It begins issuing commands to the animals and they begin to disperse and leave you alone, apart from the fox. The fox stays with the leopard. It just says to Al-Qadir, before you go to leopard, it says, be careful with your mousy friend. A lot of things here eat rats.
And he just simply nods. He is aware of that. And definitely with this conversation, assume that would be the case. And mentally relay that to Alif that he wasn't as clever as he think he was.
Hey, it's funny because it's a leopard and cats eat mice. Oh.
No.
Anyway. Yeah, the leopard goes back into its cave with the fox. Actually, no. The fox goes back in, but the leopard watches with its red eyes. It watches for you to go, watches for you to leave entirely. And yeah, Al-Qadir, you actually do find that yeah, you have about an hour and a half until dawn. So by the time both of you get back to the city, you'll have about half an hour until the sun rises.
Well, that's okay.
So, your timing is quite impeccable, really. Yeah.
I'm going back to Madeline's to wait for her, basically.
Yep.
I have no idea how long she's going to be in Taurus. So.
Al-Qadir will return with information gathered, yet without his ghoul, at least for now. And I think that is where we'll end our scene, as these three Canaanites part ways. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time.
Good night.